In order to become free, you need to know that there's self-talk in the head while there's self-talk in the head. Otherwise, there's just self-talk in the head without any awareness. There needs to be a glimpse of awareness, and from there you can see that you want to be free of it, and that's not who you are.
You probably do it without thinking, almost like breathing. That voice in your head, narrating, judging, planning, worrying, always there, always active. We've come to accept it as normal, as though it's just part of being human. But what if I told you that voice is the very thing keeping you from unlocking the life you're meant to live? What if silencing it just for a moment could transform everything? The silent witness within. For centuries, sages and mystics have whispered a profound truth. The chatter of the mind is not who you are. It's a mask, a layer of noise separating you from your true self. The moment you stop talking to yourself, internally or aloud, you begin to experience something extraordinary. Imagine this: you're sitting by a still lake. The surface is glass, perfectly mirroring the sky above, but drop a single pebble, and ripples distort the reflection. This is your mind. Your constant inner dialogue is the pebble, endlessly disturbing the stillness. What if you could stop throwing stones? Zen Buddhism speak of this stillness. They call it no mind, a state where the chatter ceases and clarity emerges. It's not about silencing the mind forcefully. It's about letting go of the need to narrate every moment. This is where the magic begins. When you stop talking to yourself, something unexpected happens. You start to listen, not with your ears, but with your whole being. You begin to hear the subtle language of the universe, the whisper of intuition, the pulse of energy flowing through all things. The Gnostics referred to this as gnosis, a direct experience of truth unmediated by words or concepts. But here's the twist. The moment you try to explain it, you lose it. Words are a tool, but they're also a trap. They divide and label, turning infinite possibilities into fixed ideas. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, famously wrote in the Tao Te Ching, "The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao." The deepest truths cannot be spoken, they must be felt. So what happens when you stop the internal monologue? At first it's uncomfortable. The silence feels foreign, even threatening. You may realize how much of your identity is wrapped up in that voice. Who are you if you're not the one saying, "I should have done this," or "What if that happens?" The truth is, you are not the voice. You are the one who hears it. This shift in perspective changes everything. When you stop identifying with the chatter, a deeper awareness emerges. You become the silent witness, observing without judgment. This state of presence is where true transformation begins. Consider the story of a monk who was asked to describe enlightenment. He simply held up a glass of water and said, "When you are thirsty, drink." No overthinking, no second guessing, just pure being. In the silence, you'll notice something astonishing. The world around you becomes more vibrant. Colors seem brighter, sounds richer, sensations more vivid. It's as though the filters you didn't even know existed have been removed. The poet Rumi described this state beautifully. Don't be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth. But the voice won't give up easily. It will resist, insist, and try to pull you back into its endless loops. This is where discipline comes in, not the harsh, rigid kind, but the gentle discipline of awareness. Every time you catch yourself talking to yourself, simply stop. Don't judge, don't resist. Just return to the stillness. Contemplative presence is a powerful tool for cultivating this awareness. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. As thoughts arise, and they will, acknowledge them, but don't engage. Let them pass like clouds drifting across the sky. Over time, the gaps between thoughts will grow longer, and the silence will feel less like emptiness and more like home. Neuroscientists have discovered that constant mental chatter activates the brain's default mode network associated with self-referential thinking. When the DMN quiets down through meditation or deep focus, People report profound feelings of peace, clarity, and connection. And it's not just about feeling good. Silencing the inner dialogue has practical benefits too. When you're not caught up in mental noise, you make better decisions. You're more present in your relationships. Creativity flows effortlessly because you're not over-analyzing every idea. The more you practice, the more you'll notice the small miracles of silence. Perhaps you'll sense a synchronicity, a call from a friend just when you need it, or an opportunity appearing out of nowhere. Maybe you'll feel a deep inner knowing guiding your choices. These aren't random events. They're the result of aligning with the flow of life. The voice in your head creates resistance, blocking this natural flow. When you let go of the need to talk to yourself, you step into harmony with the universe. Inner silence, why it matters. Inner silence is more than the absence of noise. It's the presence of peace. It's a state where your mind stops running in loops, where you no longer replay old conversations, worry about the future, or critique yourself for every perceived flaw. Instead, it's a deep, still awareness, a place where you meet the world as it is, rather than through the lens of your thoughts. This silence matters because it reconnects you to your essence. Most of us live in a constant mental dialogue, narrating our lives as if we're watching a movie. I'm late again. I'm so disorganized. They didn't text back. Are they upset with me? Why did I say that? It was so stupid. These thoughts might seem harmless, but they shape how you see yourself and the world. Over time, they can trap you in patterns of anxiety, self-doubt, and overthinking. When you embrace inner silence, you step out of this mental storm. You stop identifying with the voice in your head, realizing that it's not you. It's just a habit, a pattern of thought. Ancient spiritual teachings often speak to this idea. The philosopher Krishnamurti once said, "The ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence." Inner silence is the space where this observation happens. You witness life without labeling it, allowing reality to unfold as it is. This stillness doesn't just bring peace, it also brings clarity. Without the noise of constant thought, you can hear the subtler whispers of intuition and insight. It's like clearing a foggy windshield. You finally see the road ahead. In this silence, creativity flourishes. Solutions to problems appear effortlessly, not because you've been overthinking them, but because you've allowed space for them to arise. The ancient Gnostic texts, such as those found in the Nag Hammadi library, describe the idea of connecting with the divine spark within each of us. This spark, they suggest, is hidden beneath layers of noise and illusion. Inner silence is the doorway to uncovering it. By quieting the mind, you reconnect with the deeper truths that have always been there, waiting for your attention. Science, too, has begun to uncover the power of silence. Neuroscience tells us that our brains thrive when given space to rest. Constant stimulation can overwhelm the mind, leading to stress and burnout. Practices like meditation and mindfulness, which cultivate inner silence, have been shown to reduce anxiety, improve focus, and even rewire the brain for greater resilience. Inner silence also matters because it transforms how you experience the world. Without mental chatter coloring every interaction, life becomes richer, more vibrant. You notice the beauty in small things, a bird's song, the warmth of the sun, the kindness in someone's eyes. Relationships deepen because you're fully present, listening without the distraction of your own thoughts. Yet achieving this silence isn't about forcing your mind to stop thinking. Thoughts will come and go, just as waves rise and fall in the ocean. The key is not to get caught in them. Instead, you let them pass, like clouds drifting across the sky. This practice, often called mindfulness, can be as simple as focusing on your breath, feeling the sensations in your body, or observing your surroundings without judgment. One of the most profound realizations that comes with inner silence is the understanding that you are not your thoughts. This might sound obvious, But think about how often you define yourself by what your mind tells you. I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. These thoughts can feel so real, so true, that they shape your entire identity. Inner silence breaks this illusion. It shows you that these thoughts are just stories, not facts, and that you are something far greater than the mind's narrative. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu wrote, "Silence is a source of great strength. This strength doesn't come from doing or achieving, it comes from being." When you cultivate inner silence, you tap into a wellspring of calm and power that isn't shaken by external circumstances. You become like a tree with deep roots, grounded, unshakable, and connected to something greater. Inner silence also reveals the interconnectedness of all things. Without the ego's constant chatter, the barriers between me and you, this and that, begin to dissolve. You realize that the same stillness within you exists in everything around you. It's the silence between notes in a song, the space between stars in the sky, the pause between breaths. This understanding can transform how you relate to the world, fostering compassion, empathy, and a deep sense of unity. In practical terms, cultivating inner silence doesn't require hours of meditation or retreating to a monastery. It can begin with simple practices. Take a few moments each day to sit in stillness, observing your breath or the sounds around you. When thoughts arise, don't resist them. Simply notice them and let them go. Over time, this practice becomes a habit, and the silence grows even in the midst of activity. Inner silence matters because it's where you find yourself, not the self that's tangled in stories and fears, but the self that is infinite, eternal, and unchanging. It's where you find peace, not because the world has changed, but because your relationship to it has. The illusion of control. Have you ever felt like your mind is a radio stuck on static, buzzing with thoughts that never seem to stop? Plans, regrets, anxieties, and endless to-do lists swirl around, making it hard to find even a moment of peace. This mental noise has become so common that we hardly notice it anymore. Yet its cost is immense. It disconnects us from the present, clouds our judgment, and traps us in a loop of stress and dissatisfaction. At the heart of this mental noise lies a powerful illusion, the belief that we can and must control everything. We cling to this illusion because it gives us a false sense of security. If only we plan well enough, work hard enough, or think far enough ahead, we believe we can avoid failure, pain, or uncertainty. But life is inherently unpredictable, and the harder we try to control it, the more we suffer. Mental noise is the byproduct of this constant struggle for control. It's the inner voice that replays past mistakes, imagines worst-case scenarios, and obsesses over what might go wrong. It's the part of us that believes if we just think a little harder, we can solve every problem and keep chaos at bay. But this voice doesn't protect us. It exhausts us. The Buddha taught that clinging to ideas, desires, or outcomes is the root of suffering. When we resist the natural flow of life and try to force things to be a certain way, we create tension within ourselves. This tension is the source of mental noise, and it keeps us disconnected from the present moment, the only place where peace can truly be found. Letting go of the illusion of control is not about giving up or becoming passive. It's about recognizing the limits of what we can influence and learning to trust in the natural rhythm of life. It's about shifting from a mindset of force to one of flow. This process begins with awareness. When you notice your mind racing, take a step back and observe it without judgment. Imagine your thoughts as clouds drifting across the sky. They come and go, but they are not the sky itself. You are the sky, vast, open, and unaffected by the passing clouds. This simple act of observation creates a space between you and your thoughts, allowing the noise to quiet down. The illusion of control also disconnects us from our true selves. When we're consumed by mental noise, we lose touch with our intuition, creativity, and inner wisdom. We rely on our minds to solve problems that often require a deeper kind of knowing. This is why moments of clarity often come when we're not actively thinking, during a walk in nature, a quiet evening, or even in the shower. One of the most profound teachings about letting go comes from the Tao Te Ching, which says, "By letting go, it all gets done." This doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or effort. It means aligning with the flow of life instead of fighting against it. When we stop trying to control every detail, we open ourselves to possibilities we couldn't have imagined. Letting go of control doesn't mean we stop caring or making decisions. It means we learn to act without attachment to specific outcomes. This mindset reduces mental noise because we're no longer constantly second-guessing ourselves or worrying about things beyond our control. The practice of letting go can also be supported by cultivating mindfulness. When you focus on the present moment, whether through your breath, a physical sensation, or the sounds around you, you break free from the grip of mental noise. The present moment is where life happens, and it's where your power lies. But letting go is not a one-time decision, it's a lifelong practice. The mind will always try to pull you back into its stories and struggles for control. But each time you notice this happening, you have an opportunity to return to the present, to release the grip of your thoughts, and to reconnect with the flow of life. The cost of mental noise and the illusion of control is too high. They rob us of peace, clarity, and joy. But the reward of letting go is freedom. It's the freedom to live fully, without the weight of unnecessary worry. It's the freedom to trust in the unfolding of life, knowing that you are capable of navigating whatever comes your way. Awaken to the power of silence. The moment you step into the silence, the world begins to feel different. You're no longer bound by the endless loops of inner dialogue, and a profound transformation begins to unfold. But the silence is not merely the absence of noise. It's an entryway into something vast, something extraordinary. The voice in your head isn't there to help, it's there to control. It's the keeper of your limitations, the architect of your fears. To fully awaken, you must learn to disarm it. One way to do this is by understanding the nature of thought itself. Ancient teachings, like those from the Upanishads, describe thoughts as clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. They come and go, but they are not you. You are the sky, vast, unchanging, and untouched by the storms of the mind. To truly live in this awareness, you must break free from identification with your thoughts. It's not about fighting them or suppressing them. Instead, it's about seeing them for what they are, fleeting, impermanent, and often meaningless. Consider this. How many times has your inner dialogue lied to you? How often has it predicted outcomes that never came to pass, exaggerated fears, or created conflicts where none existed? The voice in your head is not a reliable guide. It's a storyteller, and not always a truthful one. In the silence, you begin to see through these stories. You realize that most of your inner dialogue is driven by the past or the future, regrets about what has been, or anxieties about what might be. Rarely does it dwell in the present moment where life is actually happening. The present moment is where your power resides. It's where you can break free from the illusion of time and step into the infinite now. In this state, you're no longer a prisoner of your thoughts. You're the observer, the creator, the one who chooses. The silence may seem empty, even lonely, but as you settle into it, you'll discover that it's not empty at all. It's alive, vibrant, and filled with a deep sense of peace. This is your natural state, the state you were born into before the world taught you to fill the silence with noise. From this place of silence, a new kind of clarity emerges. You begin to see patterns in your life that were once invisible. The repetitive thoughts and behaviors that kept you stuck become obvious, and you realize you have the power to change them. Quantum physics tells us that reality is not fixed. It's a field of infinite possibilities. Your thoughts and intentions shape this field, collapsing the wave of potential into the particle of experience. When your mind is clouded by constant chatter, you're unconsciously creating your reality based on old limiting patterns. But when you silence the noise, you can consciously direct your focus and create a reality aligned with your true desires. This is not just a theoretical idea, it's something you can experience directly. Take a moment to reflect on your life. Are there areas where you feel stuck or limited? Notice the thoughts that arise when you think about these areas. Are they filled with doubt, fear, or negativity? Now imagine what would happen if you stopped feeding these thoughts. In the silence, you begin to realize that you are not bound by the stories your mind has told you. You can rewrite the script. You can choose thoughts that empower you instead of limiting you. This is the essence of creating your own reality, not through force or struggle, but through awareness and intention. But what about the world around you? How can you maintain this state of silence and clarity in a noisy, chaotic world? The answer lies in detachment. Detachment doesn't mean withdrawing from life or becoming indifferent. It means not allowing the external world to dictate your inner state. The Bhagavad Gita, one of the great texts of Hindu philosophy, speaks of this balance. It teaches that true freedom comes from acting without attachment to the results. When you let go of the need to control outcomes, you align with the flow of life. You become like a river, moving effortlessly toward your destination, untroubled by the obstacles in your path. In practical terms, this means practicing silence not just in meditation, but in your everyday life. It means pausing before you react, observing instead of judging, and choosing your words and actions with intention. The transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a journey of unlearning and rediscovery. But with each step, the voice in your head grows quieter and the silence grows stronger. And in that silence, you'll find the answers you've been seeking. You'll discover that you are not a victim of your thoughts or circumstances. You are the creator of your reality. You'll realize that the true power lies not in the noise, but in the quiet strength of your presence, breaking the illusion of identity. The silence once felt becomes undeniable. It grows like a seed within, cracking through the rigid shell of the ego, the constructed identity we carry for so long without question. But here's the challenge. The ego doesn't give up its hold easily. It clings, whispers, and sometimes even shouts, desperate to convince you that it is who you are. You'll encounter the resistance of the mind in its rawest form. At first, the silence may feel unsettling. Thoughts will rise in rebellion, each one louder than the last, trying to lure you back into the familiar chaos of self-talk. Who are you without me? The ego seems to ask. It fears its own dissolution, mistaking silence for death. But the silence isn't the end of you, it's the end of the illusion of you. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that the self is eternal and unchanging, untouched by the fleeting thoughts and emotions of the mind. The Gnostic texts, discovered in Nag Hammadi, describe a hidden spark of divinity within each of us, obscured by the false self we project into the world. Even the parables of Jesus speak of losing one's life, one's ego, to find true life in the spirit. What becomes clear is this: the self-talk we engage in isn't just harmless chatter, it's the mechanism by which the ego maintains its grip on us, weaving a narrative that keeps us bound to an illusion of separateness. Each thought reinforces the story of me, my desires, my fears, my successes, my failures. But who is this me that we defend so fiercely? When the silence deepens, the answer begins to emerge. You are not the story. You are not the voice in your head or the persona you show to the world. These are roles you play, masks you wear, but they are not your essence. The real you is the observer, the presence that watches the drama unfold but is untouched by it. This realization is both liberating and disorienting. Without the constant stream of self-talk to anchor you, the boundaries of your identity begin to blur. You might feel as though you're dissolving, merging into something vast and incomprehensible. And in a way, You are. You're stepping beyond the limits of the mind and entering the realm of pure being. This is where the paradox of silence reveals itself. In letting go of the need to define yourself, you discover a deeper truth. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe, experiencing itself through the lens of your consciousness. The mystics call this realization enlightenment, awakening, or union with the divine. But these are just words. The experience itself is beyond words, beyond thought, beyond the mind. Yet, even in this profound state, life continues. The body moves, the world spins, and challenges arise. The difference is that now you're no longer caught in the illusion. You see the thoughts and emotions for what they are, waves on the surface of the ocean, fleeting and impermanent. And you are the ocean, vast and unchanging. This shift in perspective transforms the way you live. Without the constant narration of self-talk, you begin to act from a place of clarity and intention. Decisions are no longer clouded by fear or doubt because you're no longer trying to protect a fragile sense of self. Instead, you move with the flow of life, responding to each moment with wisdom and grace. The ancient Taoist sages called this alignment with the natural order of things Wu Wei, or effortless action. It's not passivity, but a deep trust in the intelligence of the universe. When you stop trying to control everything, you realize that life has its own rhythm, its own wisdom. And when you align yourself with it, life becomes a dance, not a struggle. But the ego doesn't disappear entirely. It's still there in the background trying to reassert itself. This is why the practice of silence must be ongoing. Like a garden, it requires regular tending. Without it, the weeds of self-talk will grow back, choking out the stillness. Every moment offers an opportunity to practice. When a thought arises, notice it without judgment and let it go. When emotions swell, feel them fully but don't cling to them. And when the mind tries to pull you back into the story of me, gently remind yourself that you are not the story. Over time, this practice becomes second nature. The silence becomes your home, the place you return to again and again. And from this place, you can engage with the world in a way that is both grounded and expansive. This is the paradox of silence. It's not about withdrawing from life, but about engaging with it more fully. When you're no longer trapped in the noise of self-talk, you can truly listen to others, to the world, and to the deeper truth within yourself. In this listening, you'll find that the silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of something greater. Call it the divine, the universe, or simply the essence of being. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it's real, and it's always been there, waiting for you to hear it. The mystical connection between silence and creation. The silence, once embraced, reveals itself as not just a void, but a source of unimaginable power. It's as if the universe itself speaks not in words, but in the quiet resonance of pure being. In this silence, creation begins, not the kind of creation marked by struggle or effort, but the effortless emergence of something deeply authentic and aligned with truth. When you no longer engage in ceaseless self-talk, you start to notice something extraordinary. Space. Space between your thoughts. Space to see things as they are. Space to allow life to flow through you instead of against you. This space is not empty, it is alive. The Buddhists often refer to this as shunyata, or emptiness, but not in the sense of lacking. It is a dynamic, fertile void where all potential exists. In that space, you realize that silence is the birthplace of all creation. Consider the beginning of the universe, the Big Bang. Before the explosion of light and matter, there was stillness. In many creation myths, from Genesis to the Vedic hymns, the story begins not with noise, but with silence, a sacred pause before the act of creation. This isn't just metaphorical. The more you sit in silence, the more you begin to understand its creative potential. The chatter of the mind, which often feels productive, is actually a distraction. It ties us to repetitive cycles, endlessly rehashing the same thoughts and patterns. True creation requires stepping outside of this loop, beyond the mind's constant noise, into the infinite silence where new possibilities emerge. Quantum mechanics hints at this truth. Scientists have discovered that at the subatomic level, particles don't exist in a fixed state until they're observed. Before observation, they exist as probabilities, as potential. This mirrors the power of silence. When you stop forcing, stop narrating, stop trying to control the outcome, you enter a state of pure potential. You become the observer who brings forth reality, not through effort, but through presence. This is why silence is central to so many spiritual practices. These are the moments when we connect to the source. The Sufi poet Rumi wrote, "Listen to the silence, it has so much to say." This is not a poetic flourish. It is a profound truth. The silence doesn't just speak, it creates. But what happens when you enter this space of creation? At first it can feel overwhelming. The ego may try to reassert itself, claiming that you need to do something, that you need to direct this energy or control the outcome. Yet the great spiritual teachers remind us that creation isn't about doing, it's about allowing. When you surrender to the silence, you become a vessel for something greater. Call it the divine, the universe, or your higher self, whatever name resonates with you. The point is that creation flows through you, not from you. It's the difference between trying to force a river to flow in a certain direction and allowing it to find its natural course. This surrender doesn't mean passivity. On the contrary, it requires a deep trust and courage, trust that the silence knows what it's doing, courage to let go of the need to control, and faith that what emerges from the silence will be exactly what is needed, even if it doesn't match your expectations. In the Gnostic teachings, there's a concept of the pleroma, the fullness of divine reality. This fullness isn't something we achieve through effort, it's something we access by dissolving the illusions that separate us from it. The silence helps us do just that. It peels back the layers of noise, of self-talk, of ego, revealing the fullness that has always been there. As you engage with this silence, you'll begin to notice patterns, synchronicities, and coincidences in your life. These aren't random, they are the language of creation, the universe responding to your alignment with its flow. You might find that opportunities arise effortlessly, relationships deepen, and clarity replaces confusion. This isn't magic, it's the natural result of stepping out of the mind's chaos and into the silence's wisdom. But this process also requires discernment. Not every thought or impulse that arises in the silence is pure. The ego, even when quieted, may try to sneak back in, cloaking itself in spiritual language or lofty ideas. This is why ongoing practice is essential. Silence is not a destination, but a state to return to again and again, each time peeling back another layer of illusion. The Christian mystic Meister Eckhart said, "The soul must give up all that is not God, and in that silence, God will speak." What he pointed to is the transformative power of silence to strip away what is false, leaving only what is true. In this truth, creation happens effortlessly, not as an act of will, but as an expression of the divine. This is the paradox of silence. By doing nothing, everything becomes possible. The creative power you've been chasing through effort and self-talk has been within you all along, waiting for you to stop chasing and simply listen. As you practice this, you may begin to sense a profound shift. Your relationship with the world changes. No longer caught in the web of self-narration, you start to see life not as something happening to you, but as something happening through you. You're not a separate entity battling against the universe. You are the universe, creating itself in every moment. This realization is both humbling and empowering. It dissolves the false boundaries of the ego while revealing the infinite potential of your true self. It's the moment when you understand, not intellectually but experientially, that the silence is not just the absence of noise, it is the presence of everything. But what happens when you go beyond even the first layers of silence? embracing the infinite silence and the final awakening. When you fully surrender and embrace the infinite stillness, a final awakening begins. It's the moment when the veil of separation between you and the universe, between thought and reality, melts away entirely. This awakening isn't an end, but a profound new beginning. It's where you discover the essence of who you truly are, unbound by the limitations of ego and identity. Spiritual traditions across the ages have pointed to this state, though they've called it by many names. The Hindus refer to it as samadhi, the Buddhists as nirvana, and the mystics simply call it union with the divine. At this stage, you no longer perceive silence as an absence of sound or thought. Instead, you understand it as the very fabric of existence. Every breath, every moment, every experience arises from and returns to this vast stillness. When you embrace it fully, you align with the natural flow of life, dissolving the barriers that once made you feel separate or small. Imagine a drop of water merging with the ocean. Before the drop surrenders, it might fear losing itself. But once it enters the vastness of the ocean, it realizes it was never separate in the first place. This is the experience of stepping into infinite silence. The voice you once relied on to narrate your life becomes irrelevant because you no longer need to explain, justify, or analyze your existence. You simply are. This state of being doesn't mean that challenges or difficulties disappear. The external world will continue to move through cycles of joy and struggle, but your relationship with it transforms. Instead of reacting from a place of fear or resistance, you respond with clarity and presence. The silence becomes your guide, offering wisdom that no amount of self-talk could ever provide. In this way, the illusion of control fades away, replaced by a deeper trust in the unfolding of life. This is the ultimate freedom, not the freedom to manipulate or dominate your reality, but the freedom to flow with it, to co-create with the universe rather than fight against it. The Gnostic teachings remind us that this world is a reflection, a kind of mirror showing us what we need to see in order to grow and awaken. When you silence your inner dialogue, you stop distorting the reflection. You see things as they truly are, pure, unfiltered, and perfect in their imperfection. Glitches in reality, those moments where the illusion seems to crack, take on a new meaning. They're no longer random or frightening, they're clues. They show you that the boundaries of this world are not as rigid as they seem. In the silence, you begin to notice these patterns, these hints that reality is far more fluid and malleable than you once believed. Quantum mechanics echoes this truth. Particles exist as probabilities until they're observed, which means that the act of observation, of attention, literally shapes reality. When you stop filling the space with constant chatter, your attention becomes sharper, more deliberate. You're no longer scattered across 1,000 fragmented thoughts. Instead, you're fully present, and in that presence, you become a conscious creator. But this creation is not about force or effort, it's about alignment. When you align with the silence, you align with the natural intelligence of the universe, the same intelligence that spins galaxies and blossoms flowers. You begin to notice that life unfolds more gracefully, almost effortlessly, when you stop trying to control it with your thoughts. When you reach this point of surrender, your life becomes a kind of living meditation. Each moment is an opportunity to deepen your connection to the silence, to let it guide you rather than resisting or forcing your way through. This doesn't mean abandoning action or responsibility. It means acting from a place of stillness and clarity rather than fear or compulsion. So what happens if you truly stop talking to yourself? The answer is both simple and profound. You awaken to who you really are. You discover that you are not your thoughts, your stories, or your fears. You are the silence beneath it all, the infinite, unchanging presence that has always been there, patiently waiting for you to remember. In this final realization, you understand that silence is not something to fear or avoid. It is the doorway to your freedom, the bridge between illusion and truth. It is where you find not only peace but also the limitless potential of creation itself. As you step fully into this silence, you may notice a deep sense of gratitude arising, not for anything in particular, but for the sheer miracle of existence. This gratitude, too, flows from the silence, reminding you that life is not something to be figured out or conquered. It is something to be experienced, cherished, and ultimately surrendered to. And so the journey comes full circle. The voice that once sought to define, control, and explain has been quieted, not through force but through understanding. In its place, the silence speaks, not in words but in the language of presence, creation, and infinite possibility. What will happen if you stop talking to yourself? Only everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.